My name is Gemma, and this is House Life with Gemma. I've never done a YouTube channel before. I've never done a TikTok before. Never done an Instagram story before. I do have social media. I have Facebook and Instagram, but I don't do anything on them. They're only open to my family and close friends. I'm very nervous to do this. Reason for doing it, I'm hoping it will build some confidence within myself because I don't really have a lot. Even doing this on my own at home when no one can actually see me is still very scary. I'm kind of using it as an online diary to see if what I have to say is of interest to anybody and if it helps anybody. I'm a parent to two children, a son who's nearly 4 and a daughter who's very nearly 6 months. And I have my partner I've been with nearly 10 years. We got 3 cats. I'm an insurance broker. Obviously, I'm still on maternity leave at the moment. But yeah, no, I'm just trying to get through life the best I can. Apologise if my eyes are all over the place. I know I should really look at the camera, but I don't do this, as I say, so I'm going to have to learn, so bear with me. And again, the lighting and everything, I'll have to learn how to make the best use of it because at the minute, I mean, I think my bags are highlighted and my bags don't just start here, it's here. I'm like an owl. And anyone with children, you'll know that, yeah, you get bags in places you never thought you'd have bags before. So there we go. But the channel is going to be, things about parenting that I've learned that have been useful to me and hopefully might help somebody else. General house life, work life, just general life in general. So hopefully what I have to say will be of interest and will, if you feel free to comment, obviously, if you would like, and we can have a discussion or just leave a comment for the sake of leaving a comment. Obviously, I don't encourage negative things. If you don't like what I have to say, don't like the look of me or whatever it is you don't like, just block me forever and never have to see me again. You don't need to leave a nasty comment, but if you do, whatever, can't physically stop you. I'd like to think I'm old enough now to be past all of that playground rubbish. And I don't know if you can tell by my accent, I'm based in Essex. And no, we are not all like the people you see from Towie. I was asked that once by a customer at work who said, "Oh, you're from Essex? Oh, wow, is it like that show Towie?" No, I think Brentwood is because that's where it was filmed and where a lot of the people that from there are from. But other than that, I don't see anyone like that from where I am. But yeah, if you're interested in what I have to say or any parenting tips or just curious to keep going with the channel, then feel free. And as well as this being an introduction, I'll start with one of the topics that I was hoping to discuss. And that is a little bit about something that's new to me. Even though I'm a second-time parent, it's different. My daughter had we're still not entirely sure, it's going to be a bit of a journey, I think. She's got either a milk allergy or milk intolerance. I think it is a milk intolerance because she's not got diarrhea, she's not been sick, but she had a horrendous, I've never ever seen anything like it, a horrendous flare-up of eczema. I did have eczema as a child, what I considered to be bad, but that was obviously because I was scratching myself a ridiculous amount to bleed and everything else. But with a baby who cannot scratch, I've never seen anything like it in skin. I thought she had measles because her eczema flared up in spots all over her body, the worst being her legs. It was a deep purple that her legs went. They were hot to touch, all over her body, it was spreading her face. And the doctor told me it was infected eczema, gave her some antibiotics. The next day it got slightly worse, so I took her back. Yep, keep going with the antibiotics, they said, so I did. Went back again, a third time, when she got even worse, and I never want to see her like that again. And the doctor immediately said, go to hospital. So obviously that's terrifying. And luckily she had no other symptoms present. She didn't have a fever, she wasn't being sick, no diarrhea, she wasn't off in herself. Believe it or not, if you can believe it, she was still acting herself, happy, despite looking horrendous, and it must have been sore for her because it was starting to weep. And every cream I was using for her wasn't working. They'd given me some steroid cream with the antibiotic, wasn't working. So the trip to the doctor, the hospital doctor, confirmed that yes, it was infected eczema, but that she was given the wrong antibiotic. So it just wasn't doing anything. So she needed to take 2 antibiotics now in order to tackle the problem. And it took about 2 or 3 days from being on the antibiotic before her skin started to get better. It's still not 100%. It's much, much, much better than it was before. But she keeps having strange little flare-ups. Nowhere near as bad as the hospital one, but it seems to go and come back, and I'm not sure what it is. If it was the milk, surely it would have stopped by now, and she's changed over to Aptamil Peptide 1, which she's taking brilliantly. It leaves her quite a mess in the nappy, I will be honest, but she's fine. She's absolutely fine on it. And her skin has not flared up to the extent that it did, but it's still having the odd flare-up. So they've arranged for, I can't remember what they're called, but it's a diet department who also deal with allergies, to call me mid-April to discuss next steps, I guess. She'll be weaning obviously very soon, so I've got to be a little bit careful about what I'm giving her food-wise, as if it is something to do with milk, the last thing I want to do is stuff her full of dairy and then she have a problem. So I'll lay off the dairy stuff until then. But yeah, we've also, they mentioned about an allergy test, which I cannot wait for, because as I said, I have cats. It could be them, but her eczema didn't present until 4 months old, or 4.5 months old. Which I thought if you had it, you had it, you're born with it. But yeah, hers didn't come out until 4.5 months, which you would think, being on the same formula since birth. I mean, well, she was on breast milk for the first month, but since then she was on the same formula and never had a breakout of anything. Why all of a sudden now? And they can't even explain it to you. So yeah, I'll just have to wait till they call me, and hopefully that won't be very long, and we can get that looked into. So I'm just curious if anyone else has had a child like that. I know a friend has got a boy with a severe milk allergy, like quite bad, and he will have hives, he will be sick and have violent, diarrhea and all that. She's got nothing like that, so I can't imagine it is milk doing it. But have you had a child in a similar situation that young as well? I've had eczema, so I'm wondering, is this just her skin now? Is it just supposed to flare up here and there, and nobody knows the cause? Or until obviously we have an allergy test, if it turns out to be the cats, then so be it. We will have to rehome them. But yeah, I'm just a bit lost with it really at the moment, which is irritating, but I'll have to carry on. And she's finding herself, that's the main thing. She's not getting temperatures, she's not developing because of it. And obviously you just got to be smart enough to know when the time is to take her back to the doctor, and if absolutely necessary, take her to the hospital. Her breathing was never affected, which sort of makes me think it's not cat related, because I think that may go hand in hand with the breathing, but obviously I'm not a doctor, I can't diagnose her like that. But yeah, it was absolutely horrendous. When I learn how to edit videos, I'll have to go back and show you just how bad her legs were, because I didn't think she'd have skin left on her legs, because it all started when the medicine was working. Her skin on her legs was peeling off in chunks, and I couldn't, for how young she was, I didn't think skin would grow back. It did, obviously. I'm probably being very dramatic. It was just something I've never seen before, even in myself. When I had eczema that bad, my skin never did that. Yeah, it was just awful. So I'd be interested to read any comments about it. She's got various creams now, obviously. She's got variant emollient creams that we're trying, and her skin's hydrated just fine. It is just weird random red flare-ups that we can't seem to address at the moment. But as I said, mid-April, we have the chat with the consultant person, and then from there, hopefully an allergy test, which won't take too long to come in. But yeah, this has obviously been on my mind, and it's probably a part stress in my life at the moment. You always cause more stress to yourself, I think, when something happens you don't think. It probably seems worse to me than it does to anyone else. And even though I've had eczema, I should know all about it. It's just a strange form of eczema that mine, as far as I know, never got infected, and certainly never went the way hers did. And I feel awful because it's me who's essentially given it to her on purpose. Obviously, it's just a genetic thing. My mum passed it to me, and I pass it to her. My son gets it slightly on his hands, but his skin is fine. So fingers crossed she can get on the way to us finding out what actually flares it up so we can avoid it in future, or at least be prepared so if something does happen, when she comes into contact with it, we will know, right, this is going to happen. But yeah, that was one of the things I wanted to talk about, because it really knocked me for six. And again, it's nowhere near as bad as what anyone, other people are dealing with. This is, I'm not saying it is at all, but for me, and having a child that young going through something like that, I mean, any child having to go to hospital, regardless of the reason, is not, it is always going to seem like the worst thing. She didn't have to stay. I was wondering if she did, because they took a while, and the doctor, when he said go to hospital, said she may need an IV drip, which was terrifying to hear, but luckily she didn't. But yeah, it's just a curious thing. It was and it all flared up to the point of needing a hospital trip within sort of 2 days. And I was doing everything I could. On the third day in the morning, because the doctors, I don't know about you, but the doctors are absolutely horrendous to get hold of, I phoned 111, which, if you're not from the UK, it's a service that isn't your doctors, it's not hospital, but they are trained people, and they listen to your problems, like what your symptoms are, and they will determine if you need to go to hospital or go back to a doctor, and they can also request an ambulance for you as well if your symptoms require it. So I thought, well, I'm not going to just fly back to a doctor, I'm going to talk to them and they can tell me where I need to go, because she was an emergency. Like, I didn't need to take her to A&E. The emergency section, I just needed to know where to take her, and my doctors were no good at answering the phone. And they said to me, yep, she needs to go back to the doctor. So it's not that I didn't take it seriously and I just went straight back to the doctor. I did follow, normal sort of procedure, and I didn't just bother the doctor again. I did try and see if it needed a hospital trip because her legs were so bad. But they said, no, go to the doctor. And they managed to get me an appointment through the doctor, save me ringing up, because they're just awful with it. And they're so rude as well. I know there's always this running joke about receptionists who are rude. No, not all of them are, of course, but I don't know what it is about a doctor's surgery, and they're just being so awful to you when you ring. And I was panicked. I was absolutely panicked because it was all horrible to see it that way. And they hadn't listened to me those other 2 times when they saw her getting visibly worse, and they still said, oh no, carry on with the antibiotic, and it just clearly wasn't doing anything. So sometimes you do have a right to worry as a parent, and you need to do what you need to do to make sure that you're heard and you're listened. So it was a bit of a wasted trip going back to the doctor just to be told to go to A&E. But again, if her symptoms had been a hell of a lot worse, if her breathing had been affected, if she'd been sick, if she, could have been dehydrated and stuff, then yeah, I wouldn't even have bothered with the doctor. I would have gone straight to A&E with her. But no, I would recommend anyone in that situation, you really do have to just, breathing is a big thing, obviously. Like if she was really struggling, I no way I would just hang on and wait for a doctor. No way I would have even rang 111. I would have just gone straight there. Luckily, I'm not too far away, so I have got the luxury of that. But I appreciate for other people living in places that aren't quite near a hospital that you might need an ambulance to come and get you. But obviously then that would require the phone call when you need to do that. But it wasn't very pleasant. And luckily, this all happened. her appointment that day was after school, so I just picked my son up, and luckily my sister lives around the corner from me. She had my son for me while I went to the doctor, thinking that I wasn't needed in the hospital. Then I had to fly straight to the hospital again. You know, my sister had my son, which was really helpful, because dragging a 3-year-old to the hospital as well as a baby, not a fun thing to do. He's going to be bored out of his mind. And obviously the fact of dinner and stuff like that, I couldn't have given him dinner. Luckily she'd had a bottle before we'd come out, so she was okay. And we didn't actually have to wait in the hospital too long, thank God. So that went quite quickly. But yeah, no, it was all just awful. Awful experience, and it's annoying because I still don't know what's causing it. I mean, there might not be an actual, underlying cause. It could just be, I don't know what. It's funny, I don't know what triggered mine off when I was younger. I feel so grateful now that I'd had basically 17 years of it being hell with my skin, and not my face, it was mainly my legs and my arms that were awful. So as you can imagine, in the summers I couldn't wear skirts or a short top. Yes, I could, but I didn't want to because I was so conscious of people looking at my legs and arms being really red and sort of judging me for it, and didn't want to play with me because, and being a teenager and having that, you're massively conscious anyway. Last thing I wanted was the people judging me even more than I was judging myself. I mean, even now as an adult, you do, if you get spots and stuff, like you think, oh God, I really wanted to wear, like I've had a few spots on my chest before, and you think, oh God, I wanted to wear this top and now I can't because, it looks disgusting, and you feel down about yourself. It's going to happen to everybody. It happens to everyone in every walk of life. And I'd like to say you grow out of it and you don't. You care less and less, but you don't stop caring. So yeah, it's, even if you're brave enough to do, like, expose yourself in a way that you weren't when you were younger, there is that fear there still initially. I think you're able to block it a bit more out of your mind. So I think that, parenting is probably going to be the main topic of my conversation on here. What worked for me when my son was giving up his dummy. The weaning process is obviously starting very soon, and I've not forgotten, but obviously I've got to do that all over again, so that'll be fun. And I'm doing it a different way to how I did it with my son, so I'm going to be letting her explore herself, whereas I spoon-fed my son purees and things. So I'm interested in doing just letting her crack on with it sort of thing. I think that'll be interesting. So yeah, there'll be various other things, but there's other work stuff, and I think my next topic is just going to be manners, which I don't know what it is about this month being a March manners is, honestly, it should be a thing, because it's been awful in terms of what I've seen out there in public and also at home. But that's a parenting thing, obviously ongoing, because he's only 3 and he's still learning. But my goodness, yeah. If I could pull some people over and just teach them a thing or two about manners, I'd love to. But yeah, no, appreciate you even having a look if that's what you've done. If you want to subscribe and see more, hear more, or follow this particular journey that I'm on with her and her skin, if you're going through something similar, then by all means feel free. I can't guarantee how often I can get on and do these videos because of, life, but I will try and do my best and upload as often as I can with different things, just to keep you entertained or whatever, and again help my confidence be built up, because that's mostly the main reason I'm doing it. It feels easier the more I've spoken, but I had to stop and start the video a few times because it seems weird talking to myself. It's very, very odd. I suppose it's easy if you're a narcissist and you enjoy it, but it's very, very strange to me. Again, if I'm obviously going to listen to this back, so I apologise if the sound of me isn't as clear, or the acoustics in the room aren't quite good, but it's where the computer is, and it's where the only place it can really go. So I don't know. Again, it's all a learning curve. I might have to figure it out. But yeah, I hope you enjoy listening to what I have to say and tune in for some more stuff. But yeah, topic of her skin was today. And as I said, I'll try and come back to this with some images of just how bad it was, because it really was awful. But yeah, thank you for listening, and I will see you again soon. Thank you.